Hello, welcome to the YooJeong show. Today we have a very special guest who actually transformed her mermaid fins into two legs in order to find her true love. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ariel from The Little Mermaid.
Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me.
So, you had a baby recently and you had to go through many hardships such as your divorce, but then you still look the same. Guys, doesn't she look the same?
Well, thank you.
Well, we all know that the magical transformation you had to go through in your appearance, like from a mermaid to a human and now to a single parent. What a journey. But before we begin, let's first see a clip.
Take a gulp and take a breath and go ahead and sign the scroll. Flotsam jetsam, now I've got her, boys. The boss is on a roll. This poor, unfortunate soul.
Could you explain to us what's going on in the film?
Well, at one point, the restrictive life and under the rules of my strict father and the limitations placed under the sea literally began to suffocate me. So therefore I decided to pay a visit to Ursula, who is a witch, octopus, and also human. And she decided to give me two human legs and a human identity, under the condition that I have my true love's kiss with Prince Aaron within the 3 days given. Well, that wasn't the only promise that I had to give as a result of my pact. I also had to give him my voice as a price for my human identity.
So you risked losing your voice even though you knew that you wouldn't be able to talk anymore?
Well, foolishly I did. I was extremely young, and I come to realize now that it was probably most likely my obsession with true love and also the desire to rebel against my strict father that caused me to come to this decision, although it was very irrational. And I think that oftentimes, although I can visit my family and friends on the surface of the water, to be completely honest, there are several times when I actually regret the fact that I gave them my mermaid identity.
I'm very glad to hear that you actually found your true identity and stood back on your feet as an independent woman. Thank you, Ariel, for joining us today. And this was the YooJeong show. Join us for more next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
This show has been presented to you by BBC.
Hello, this is Eugenie. And this is YooJeong. Welcome to our video blog about gender stereotypes of female characters in Disney movies.
When we were young, we probably all had a time when we wanted to become the enchanted princess. Beautiful, thin, elegant, dainty, and on top of that, possessing an amazing voice that can call upon all of the forest friends who can talk and help you finish your chores. Or maybe even a charming prince on a white horseback, riding through and saving the princess just at the right moment, perhaps by fighting against a mystical dragon with your large, muscular physique, or possibly through a true love's kiss. However, oftentimes, a crucial aspect that is unnoticed by the audience is the fact that the portrayal of these characters promote ingrained stereotypes based on gender. Female characters like the typical princesses portrayed through these Disney movies, like Ariel from The Little Mermaid, oftentimes highlight the stereotype that women can only achieve happiness with the presence of a man, and in that pursuit sometimes must even go through a dramatic identity change. These female characters can be classified into one category: a rose with no thorns.
A rose, which is often associated with beauty, romance, and femininity, uses its thorns to protect itself from other predators of the wild. Therefore, the typical princess who is dainty and beautiful is stripped of her own identity and must undergo a dramatic change in her appearance in order to find her true love and establish a happily ever after. Similar to how a rose without any thorns cannot retain its identity of true beauty or fragrance, the princesses of Disney movies serve the same role as their lives go through a dramatic change in their struggles to desperately want to find a man. Simply put, the women of these Disney movies are all desperate to find a man, and it is only through the entrance of a perfect male character, and sometimes even a change in her own identity, that she can find happiness. Let's first distinguish the depiction of these traditional and original Disney princesses.
A dream is a wish. I know you, I walked with you.
One commonality of all these princesses is that they're elegant, beautiful, fair-skinned, and very thin. On top of that, all of these princesses who star as the main characters of these Disney movies have lives divided strictly based on before and after they meet their prince. This illustrates that before a woman marries her Prince Charming, her life desolate and poor, and it is only through her struggle to find this perfect man with her perfect appearance that she achieves her true source of happiness.
Now, let us look at some examples. The first example is Ariel from The Little Mermaid. Very magical indeed. However, aside from the enchanted perspective, the fact that Ariel goes to the extent of abandoning her true identity as a mermaid, her family, friends, and her home under the sea to become a human is a depiction of her desperate desires for love, which she believes is only possible as a human. The question that we must ask ourselves here is, why did Ariel feel the desperate need to find a guy in her life that went to the extent where she had to change her identity? Why does she have to give up her voice for one guy? Also, how is it so that her life is depicted as miserable under the sea, yet ends in happily ever after when she meets Eric? Before she meets her prince, she's always dreaming about the life outside of the waters, wanting to have feet to dance on, falling in love with Prince Eric, and being a part of their world. It is only after her visit to Ursula, where she is told that a good body and looks are the only factors to falling in love, and her act of giving up her voice, that she is able to finally get her happily ever after within the 3 days given. So what is the magical equation she must complete in order to find her happiness from a miserable mermaid? Who she must undergo an arduous journey in order to find, and therefore attain the happily ever after she always wanted. Happily ever after? Happily ever after? Happily ever after? Happily ever after? Happily ever after. Yes, and many more happily ever afters.
Made you look.
Jasmine is another example depicting the stereotype that women cannot achieve happiness without a presence of a man. In the beginning, she is confined within the boundaries of her palace, forced to marry a man she neither knows nor loves. However, after she meets Aladdin, she establishes a successful life with a newly gained happiness. Nothing is different for Cinderella. Her transformation is a facade created to find her prince, the man. Before she meets her prince, Cinderella's life is unfortunate as she is a slave under all of the arduous housework under her stepmother's reign. However, after Cinderella's transformation in which she can mask her true identity as a housemaid and find Prince Charming, she is able to acquire her happily ever after. In this way, Disney movies show that it is only with the presence of a man that female characters are able to find true happiness. Disney movies also show that love is no longer between two people, but between two people who are attracted to each other's deceptive images and appearances. Although it is ridiculous, the ingrained stereotypes drawn from these Disney movies show that true love comes at the price of women changing themselves to a whole new identity.
Apart from the stereotypes regarding appearances, there also exists a distinct stereotype that deals with the traditional social roles of females in Disney movies, hence the trope groom's broom. Groom's broom is a reference to the traditional housewife or domestic life of women that is portrayed in Disney movies. In these movies, women are depicted without any other choice or freedom, but to perform house chores while the men are superior, thus ingraining the stereotype that women are inferior to men.
How do you do? It won't take you long.
In the movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Snow White is a paragon of a woman who is expected to do house chores and care for the seven dwarfs. In fact, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that in the entire film, she is devoted to cleaning the house of the seven dwarfs and also cook their meals.
This shows the deep prejudice regarding the social roles of women in the domestic realm and the automatic expectation that people tend to have about how women always have to be in charge of domestic roles. Well then, let's take a look at some other Disney characters as well.
A similar stereotype of the tropes can also be seen in the movie Cinderella. Before Fairy Godmother comes to help her go to a party, Cinderella literally works as a housemaid and does all the arduous housework, which includes washing dishes to cleaning every corner of the house. The fact that Cinderella is portrayed as a housemaid with a duty to do housework already implies the stereotype hidden in this film, as it is basically telling that a normal typical life for an unprivileged woman would include lots of house chores. These well-known yet unrealized aspects of the film portray the exact definition of a true groom's broom, a woman without any choice or freedom, which also links to how women are portrayed as those who don't necessarily need education and just follow what the others decide for them. Prejudices about education.
Head out of those books and paid attention to more important things, like me. The whole town's talking about it. It's not right for a woman to read. Soon she starts getting ideas and thinking.
Gaston, you are positively primeval.
Why, thank you, Belle. What do you say you and me take a walk over to the tavern and take a look at my trophies?
Stereotypes about making decisions.
What about humans?
Humans?
I consider myself a reasonable merman. I set certain rules, and I expect those rules to be obeyed.
But you don't even know him.
Know him? I don't have to know him. They're all the same. Spineless, savage, harpooning fish eaters.
Stereotypes about marriages.
Hubert's son and heir to Stefan's child would be betrothed. And so to her his gift he brought, and looked unknowing on his future bride.
As it can be seen in these short clips, the Disney female characters lost their identities and their abilities to have control over their own lives because of the common traditional social norm which limits education for some women and also deprives them from their abilities to make free choices, and in the end, lose their power to distinguish their own individualities.
Therefore, these social stereotypes present in the trope groom's broom definitely show how the Disney characters presented in the film suffer from the stereotypes of traditional domestic house chores, educational opportunities, and freedom to make choices regarding their own marriages. Disney movies show that women must follow the traditional social norm which depicts women as weak, quiet, and those who are dependent on men. By sticking to easy domestic lives and not getting lots of opportunities to be involved in activities decided by themselves, Disney princesses, in fact, show how the traditional social stereotypes can be detrimental in one's individual development.
Bearing all of those stereotypes of women in mind, Disney movies should have made more egalitarian stories with no such prejudices or biases included in their films. By creating princesses who aren't desperately dependent on finding men to achieve happiness, or those that have the complete freedom in making their own choices without the pressures of traditional social norms, Disney movies could have worked on to promote ideologies that went against minority groups, which includes women, who still in some aspects of society do not have equal rights.
Yes, that's right. Therefore, what we should identify from these Disney movies is the stereotypes hidden behind the fancy lives of these female characters, and actually consider what kinds of effects these stereotypes can have on the lives of these characters.
In fact, the Disney movie you watched before might not be the same again after you analyze the stereotypes and unjust actions portrayed within the characters. Well, that was it for today's Lee blog, and see you next time. Bye!